got Babajide Ogunsawo here with us, our data and information analyst. Thank you for coming on this morning, Jide.
Good morning, Jimmy.
Well, that report came through about the poverty index, the Brookings report, but you've looked into this matter. Are you in any way encouraged? What do you see? Were you encouraged by that?
It depends on how we want to look at it, really. One thing is certain that we all agree, and that is more than half of Nigerians are poor. So here's what we need to do this morning. We need to look at why are Nigerians poor and what are the solutions to eliminating poverty. And to do that, there are three ways we could do that. The first is to look at, is there any connection between football and the results Africa got at the World Cup and poverty? Now listen carefully to this, Inyota. All African countries were eliminated in the first round. Why? Could this be linked to poverty? Africa nations scored 16 goals only, conceded 26 goals. In simple terms, every African country conceded more goals than they scored. Here's what I mean. The real tragedy with poverty is the poverty of aspirations. It's the poverty of aspirations. So Africa isn't scoring at the World Cup because of aspirations, and aspirations are linked to poverty. If there were a bedroom Olympics, for instance, bedroom Olympics, Africa will carry the World Cup of bedroom Olympics. And that is the fundamental problem we have, even with Nigeria today. What do I mean by bedroom Olympics? It's now over 5 decades since we got independence. When the British left us, their own population, the population of England, then was 54 million, ours 45 million. In over 55 years now, the population of England has only moved from 54 million to 66 million, less than 15 million. Ours has moved from 45 million to now approximately 200 million. Let us think in for a moment. When one country's population has grown by just 15 million, Nigeria's population has grown by 150 million. So that is the first problem.
And we'll now turn to do they have the finances to sustain that population? Why is it going down?
No, we don't. So the first is our rate of population growth is one fundamental source of the cause of poverty. So we're giving birth at an alarming rate, and we don't have the resources to manage it. There's something that the former premier of China did, Deng Xiaoping, 4 decades ago. And I'll explain what he had done and how China then had similar poverty challenges and what policy he put in place to minimize poverty in China. And we need to learn and adapt a solution around that. But the first problem that we've established today is our population growth rate is a significant problem to managing poverty. The second is, let's look at our long walk to poverty. The history of this challenge. In 1980, poverty rate, we've seen below 30%. Fast forward to 1992 when MKO contested for that election. One of his major concerns then again, poverty. But even then, what was the poverty rate? 43%. We had more Nigerians that were not poor than those that were poor. Fast forward to another 12 years, 2004. Again, when President Obasanjo came in for a second term, again, it was against the fight against poverty. But poverty had risen again. So we had moved from poverty rate of 43%, Chamberlain, in 1992 to a poverty rate of 54% by 2004. By 2016, poverty rate had gone to over 60%. So we've seen consistently Nigerians are getting poorer. And that leads me to the second problem. The second problem is, how do we even define poverty? there's something interesting that I would like to share with you. You know, just after Donald Trump won the election, Professor Shoyinka had talked about him giving back his green card. Here's what you and I need to do today. We need to really look at our own green passport and ask ourselves, does this qualify you, Chamberlain, to be called a Nigerian?
Are you giving it back?
I'm thinking of it. And I'll tell you why, Chamberlain. Here's what a poverty rate of 63% really means. It simply means if a sample of Nigerians are selected, there's a high probability that none of us here, nor Markpe, nor jury, will be selected.
Selected on what basis?
If on the basis of what is your income status.
Oh.
So on basis of income status, you and I don't represent what is a Nigerian or who a Nigerian is. On the basis of where we live, most Nigerians live in rural areas. So that's the second basis. So if you can't be selected as a Nigerian based on your income status, if we can't be selected as Nigerians based on where we live, if you and I can be selected as Nigerians based on the kind of jobs we have, and here's what I mean. The NBS says we've got 51 million Nigerians with full-time jobs, but only a third of those Nigerians have jobs like this that they pay, that they earn salaries. It simply means on the basis of income status, we don't qualify as Nigerians. On the basis of where we all live, we don't qualify as Nigerians. On the basis of the kind of job we're doing here this morning, we don't qualify as Nigerians. So what does a Nigerian really mean?
Well, Jude, tell us about this poverty divide, because it appears extreme poverty seems to be fluctuating.
Oh, yes. Today people say we are divided by ethnicity and religion, but we are divided by the third thing, and that's poverty. Here's what I mean. Average poverty rate, based on the most recent and most credible report from the NBS, shows that the Northerners are significantly poorer than the South. So average poverty in the North, 72%. Compare that to the average poverty in the South, 53%. The evidence today that we have shows that the three poorest states are in the North. The three states with the least rate of poverty are in the South. So we see we are not just divided by ethnicity or religion, we are divided by poverty. And so, as the elections even draw nearer, there's a higher probability that the next president will be decided by those who are poor. In simple terms, the evidence shows that there are only 5 states where the poverty rate is below 50%. All those states are in the South: Lagos, Osun, Rivers, Bayelsa, and Imo State. And so in a situation where majority of the voters have no income, how do you stop them from collecting money? In the words of Adlai Stevenson, a hungry man is not a free man. And so their choices are going to be influenced not by what they think, but by how they feel. So Nigeria's president in 2019 will be determined by those who are poor. And in conclusion, I talked about the policy that China used, which we need to consider, and that's their one-child policy. Now, based on religion, we might not be able to go with that 100%, but we need to start giving incentives to families that have only one child. If we can't implement our own one-child policy, we need to look at giving incentives, giving tax credits, giving lower tax rates to families that choose to have only one child. But if we continue at this rate of growth, if we continue, we're growing at only 1.95%, population is growing by 3.2%, crime rate is growing by 7%. Next year, more Nigerians will be poorer.
Maybe that's why a hungry man is not a free man. How can he be free if he's angry?
Yeah, a hungry man isn't a free man.
Well, it's up to us to see how we'll internalize some of these and see what we actually do with those data and information we do have from Jude Ogunso, our data analyst. Thank you for coming on.
Are you going to give up your passport because you don't represent a Nigerian, Chamberlain?
We'll see about that. Thank you for coming on. That's the show today. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
I'm Nelta Igbe, and I'm definitely not giving up my passport.
Is that the real passport, Julia?
Well, I can say I'm as Nigerian as they come. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf. Thank you for watching.
Can't live without that green passport. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'm Ajuri Ngilale.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this program are those of the maker and do not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, and endorsement of Channels Television.